Chapter 20. In this chapter, Hemadpant describes how Das Ganu's problem was solved by Kakasahib Dixit's maid servant. Sai was originally formless. He assumed a form for the sake of bhaktas. With the help of the actress Maya, he played the part of the actor in the big drama of the universe. Let us remember and visualize Sri Sai. Let us go to Shirdi and see carefully the programs after the noon arati. After the arati ceremony was over, Sai used to come out of the masjid and, standing on its edge, distribute the sacred ash to the devotees with very kind and loving looks. The bhaktas also got up with equal fervor, clasped his feet, and standing and staring at him, enjoyed the shower of the sacred ash. Baba passed handfuls of this ash into the palms of the devotees and marked their foreheads with it with his fingers. The love he bore for them in his heart was boundless. Then Baba addressed the bhaktas as follows. Go to take your lunch. You, Anna, go to your lodging. You, Baba, enjoy your dishes. In this way, Baba accosted each and every devotee and sent them home. Even now, you can enjoy these sights if you bring into play your imagination. You can visualize and enjoy them. Now, bringing Sai before our mental vision, let us meditate on him from his feet upwards to his face, and prostrating before Baba humbly, lovingly, and respectfully. Das Ganu once started to write a Marathi commentary on the Upanishad. Let us first give a brief idea of this particular Upanishad before proceeding further. It is called a mantra Upanishad, as it is embodied in the mantras of the Vedic Samhita. It constitutes the last or 40th chapter of the Yajurveda, and it is therefore called Samhita Upanishad. Being embodied in Vedic Samhitas, this is regarded as superior to all other Upanishads, which occur in the Brahmanas, the explanatory treatises and rituals. Not only this, other Upanishads are considered to be commentaries on the truths mentioned briefly in this principal Upanishad. For instance, the biggest of the Upanishads, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, is considered by the Pandit Salwalekar to be a running commentary on the Ishvasya Upanishad. And the Professor Ranadi says that the Ishopanishad is quite a small Upanishad, and yet it contains many hints which show an extraordinarily piercing insight. Within the short compass of 18 verses, it gives a valuable mystical description of Atman, the Self, a description of the ideal sage who stands unruffled in the minds of temptations and sorrows, and of the doctrine of karma yoga, as later formulated and finally reconciliation of the claims of knowledge and work. The most valuable ideas that lies at the root of the Upanishad is that of a logical synthesis between the two opposites of knowledge and work, which are both required according to the Upanishad to be annulled in a higher synthesis. From the brief description given about this Upanishad, anyone can see how difficult it is to translate the Upanishad in a vernacular language and brief out its exact meaning. Das Ganu translated in Marathi, verse by verse, but as he did not comprehend the gist or essence of the Upanishad, he was not satisfied with his performance. He therefore consulted some learned men regarding his doubts and difficulties, and discussed with them at great length. They did not solve them, nor did they give him any rational or satisfactory explanation. So Das Ganu was a little restless over this matter. Only the Sadguru is competent and qualified to explain. As we have seen, this Upanishad is the quintessence of the Vedas. It is the science of self-realization. It is the scythe or weapon which can render asunder the bondage of life and death, and it makes us free. Therefore, he thought that he who has himself attained self-realization can only give him the true or correct interpretation of the Upanishad. So when nobody could satisfy Das Ganu, he resolved to consult Sai Baba about this. When he got an opportunity to go to Shirdi, he saw Sai Baba, prostrated himself before him, and mentioned his difficulties about the translation of the Upanishad, and requested Baba to give the correct solution. Sai Baba blessed him and said, "You need not be anxious. There is no difficulty about the matter. The mind servant of Kaka, that is Kaka Sahib Dixit, will solve your doubts on your way home." The people who were present then and heard this thought that Baba was joking and said, "How could an illiterate maidservant solve the difficulties of this nature?" But Das Ganu thought otherwise. He was sure that whatever Baba spoke must come true. Baba's word was the decree of Brahma, the Almighty. Kaka Sahib's maidservant. On fully believing in Baba's words, he left Shirdi and came to Vailpali, a suburb of Bombay, and stayed with Kaka Sahib Dixit. There, the next day, when Das Ganu was enjoying his morning nap, some say he was actually engaged in worship, he heard a poor girl singing a beautiful song in clear and melodious tones. The subject matter of the song was a crimson-colored sari. How nice it was, how fine was its embroidery, how beautiful were its ends and borders. He liked the song so much that he came out and saw that it was being sung by a young girl, the sister of Namya, who was a servant of Kaka Sahib. The girl was cleaning vessels and had only a torn rag on her person. On seeing her impoverished condition and her jovial temperament, Das Ganu felt pity for her. And when Bahadur the next day gave him a pair of dhotis, he requested him to give a sari to the poor little girl also. Bahadur bought a good small sari and presented it to her. Like a starving person getting luckily good dishes to eat, her joy knew no bounds. And the next day she wore the new sari, and out of great joy and merriment, whirled and danced round and played with the other girls and excelled them all. The day following, she kept the new sari in her box at home and came with the old and torn rags, but she looked as merry as she did the previous day. On seeing this, Das Ganu's pity was transferred into admiration. He thought that the girl being poor had to wear a torn rag, but now she had a new sari which she kept in reserve, and putting on the old rag, strutted herself, showing no trace of sorrow or dejection. Thus he realized that all our feelings of pain and pleasure depend upon the attitude of our mind. On thinking deeply over this incident, he realized that a man ought to enjoy whatever God has bestowed on him in the firm conviction that the Lord besets everything from behind and before and on all sides, and that whatever is being bestowed on him by God must be for his good. In this particular case, the impoverished condition of the poor girl, her torn rag, and the new sari, the donor, the dance, and the acceptance were all parts of the Lord and pervaded by him. Hence, Das Ganu got a practical demonstration of the lesson of the Upanishad, the lesson of contentment with one's own lot, in the belief that whatever happens is ordained by God and is ultimately for our highest good. Unique method of teaching. From the above incident, the listener will see that Baba's method was unique and varied. Though Baba never left Shirdi, he sent some to various cities, such as Sholapur, for practicing sadhanas. To some he appeared in his usual form. To some, Baba appeared in waking or dream state, day or night, and satisfied their desires. It is impossible to describe all the methods that Baba used in imparting instructions to his bhaktas. In this particular case, he sent Das Ganu to Vailparli, where he got his problem solved through the maidservant. To those who say that it was not necessary to send Das Ganu outside and that Baba could have personally taught him, we say that Baba followed the right or best course, or how else could Das Ganu have learnt a great lesson, that the poor maidservant and her sari were pervaded by the Lord. Now we close the chapter with another beautiful extract about this Upanishad. One of the main features of the Upanishad is the ethical advice it offers, and it is interesting to note that the ethics of the Upanishad are definitely based upon metaphysical position advanced in it. The very opening words of the Upanishad tell us that God pervades everything. As a corollary from this metaphysical position, the ethical advice it offers is that a man ought to enjoy whatever God bestows on him in the firm belief that the Lord pervades everything. Whatever is bestowed on him by God must be good. So it follows naturally that the Upanishad should forbid us from coveting another man's property. In fact, we are fittingly taught here a lesson of contentment with one's own lot, in the belief that whatever happens, it is divinely ordained, and it is hence good for us. Another moral advice is that man must spend his lifetime always in doing action, especially the karmas enjoined in the Shastras, and do them in a mood of believing resignation to the will of God. Inactivity, according to this Upanishad, would be a canker of the soul. It is only when a man spends his lifetime on doing actions in this manner that he can hope to attain the ideal of nishkarma. Finally, the text goes on to say that a man who sees all beings in the self and sees the self as existing in all beings, in fact, for whom all beings and everything that exists have become the self, Atman, how can such a man suffer infatuation? What ground would such a man have for grief? Loathfulness, infatuation, and grief proceed from our not being able to see the Atman in all things. But a man who realizes the oneness of all things, for whom everything has become the self, must cease to be affected by the foibles of humanity. Vow to Sri Sai. Peace be to all.